Yo. GGP already?
Welcome to the space where the truth gets spoken. Trap snares popping, hands up, energy open. Where the chains get broken and the culture stays golden. We move with grit, say grit. We rise with grace, say grits. We push for progress. Progress. No justice,
No sleep.
snare snapping, keep that bounce alive. Unapologetic, black, unfiltered, unshaken. We the future in motion, history in the making.
Let's go.
Every step, every voice, every beat that we speak. We the rhythm of the people rising week after week. From the block to the ballot, the mic to the streets. We bring fire to the system till the mission's complete. Turn it up, let it hit, let it rise in your chest. This is power, this is purpose, yo, we won't rest. So lean in, tune up, let your spirit digest. This is grit, grace, and progress. Yeah, feel that, hold that, let it settle in your soul. Grace,
Power in the place.
grace and progress, say it. Grace,
Power in the place.
grace and progress, say it. Grace and progress, say it. Grace and progress.
Hello, everybody. How you doing? This is Lamar. Got EB and Greg. We're here with Grit, Grace, and Progress, bringing you another hot episode. It's gonna be a little different, man. I guess we all feeling this little, I know, a funny pit in our stomach, but we want to go beyond the headlines. You know, talk about healing, mental health, and community. But I want to, I know we got the way we got our categories, our topic points. We start off with black men and the mental health part. I want to first just step back for a second and say that all of three of us as men want to say that we do recognize and we do acknowledge the family. We do acknowledge for these two murders that happened this past week, that these known headline murders. There's many murders every day. Let's not forget that. But to acknowledge Serena Fairfax, Justin Fairfax's wife, acknowledge they got two kids who were in their bed when, you know, the father murdered the mom and killed himself. We want to acknowledge the 8 children that got shot down in Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana. You know, to recognize that two mothers of these children are injured, that were shot and injured. They acknowledge the fact that there's a whole community in both of these instances that are grieving right now. So I wanted to put that out there first, because we've been hearing a lot of people push back on the mental health, saying it's an excuse without acknowledging the family, and we've heard where people say it is an issue of mental health. We got to acknowledge it, but we are going to touch in on some of that. I wish we had a mental health care professional on the call, something that we didn't think about, but that we can definitely revisit this conversation this week if we want to, and do another show and bring on a mental health professional to touch down on this. But starting with you, EB, give me your first thoughts when you heard about these two senseless, I ain't gonna say senseless murders. We would say senseless, but we know that there were issues going on in both of these lives that you can't now say. We can't say it's senseless. We say it could have been preventable in some case. What was your thoughts on this when you first heard about it?
Unresolved pain. Some of the stuff that I believe contribute to this is very controversial. So I've tried to deal with it in a way, because I see it as a whole thing. Like, I had to check something. I just rechecked something because something you said, Mars. But the same percentage of African Americans that won't get mental health is the same statistic as overall Americans. That's 20-something%. All right, so 20-something% of all Americans, that's like 50 million, will not get any mental health help, right? And just because you say you need help, it does not mean you're helpless. Right. So if somebody tells us we got a bad hip, at least at my age, you run right away to make sure that hip ain't ready to go out, and you go take care of it. No matter what it costs, no matter what the copay is, you just go. But if somebody said, hey, you're under a lot of stress, there's some of us that's reluctant to go because that mean, I don't have a problem. I can take care of that because we built in society. We built this me theory that we can take care of the stuff. And something else you said earlier during the green room, you said you kind of sided with the fact that maybe it's not all mental illness. I think that I'm gonna get some credence to that because I think what happens is it's a normal stress level until they reach that other level, right? I'm already under stress. Here's something new. Now, guess what? It just got exploded. Now I don't know what to do and they know where to go. My family don't understand. My friends don't understand. Society thinks I'm a loser because of things that's going on in my personal life anyway. So rather than lose more and look bad more, not only am I going to take myself out, but I'm going to take the people around me so they don't have to suffer. I think when we get into the solution side, I'll tell you what I think that some of the standouts is. But that's overall for me, it's a societal problem, and if it just looks like it's from the minority standpoint, Black people standpoint, that's not what the stats say.
Right.
People going in schools, shooting up schools with guns, says that we have a problem, not just with the guns, it's the people with the guns. And so it's the same problem.
Yeah.
To me, I don't think those problems are separate. I think that we are separating the problems because we're in that tribal society, but I think they are the same problem. If we don't get a hold of this, we're going to have a country full of people that's sick, and we're going to have death every day, whether it's a school shooting or suicide or something like that. So it's pretty sad for me. Whenever I see it, it just makes me sad.
Yeah, I just heard that this week. It was I think it was here in Dallas. Yeah, I think it was here in Dallas. The senior skip day for school. It was like 400 kids, man, gathering up, partying, having a good time, and this one kid was running back to his car, and the police identified that he had a gun in his hand. When they got to him, he was 17 years old. When they got to him, there was 3 guns in the car. One was an AR pistol and 2 handguns, and there was 18-year-old in the car. No one got hurt, but you would think like, man, whenever time I hear a kid now with a gun, the first thing I think of is that he's being bullied and he's looking for a way to protect himself. That's the first thing I think now. It's just because I've seen it a lot and heard these stories, and I've seen it where people have been bullied and looking for a way to retaliate because they're at a breaking point and they don't tell anybody, or they told people and didn't get the help. Now, going back to adults, and those kids got in trouble, by the way. They got arrested. But getting back to adults, you got to look at mental health, but it's the preventable part. And I wanted to ask Greg, what keeps us not willing to be vulnerable as some other communities who mental health and these pressures that these cities men are having, it happens a lot with different ethnic backgrounds, ethnicities. But what is it within our community where we don't want to seek help or we don't want to communicate with people?
It starts in the school, and now it's starting in daycare. You have kids that bully other kids, that talk about this or that, and nobody has the normal household like we did when we grew up. When I grew up, my mom was always home. There was always a parent available. So she didn't have nothing to do but walk across the street to the school to straighten things out. But now we don't want anyone to redirect our kids. And we don't want to spend time with our kids. And nobody's talking to the kids. So they're going to grow up and they're going to mirror that image. I remember a song that talked about, who was that? Harry Chapin with his dad. Going to be just like you.
Right.
And it ended up to be just like him. So what we have in this country right now is an aversion to dealing with the truth. Nobody wants to talk with facts, and everybody thinks their opinion is supposed to be engraved in stone, and they miss the science of reality. And so reality strikes back. Mental illness does not go away. My mother's a mental health professional.
Right.
And if you're not going to take your medication because you're teased, right? You don't want people to know that you've had some hard times, some trying times, and just living in that denial is just setting up the groundwork for addiction to move in, for instability, misogyny, patriarchy, all of those isms that you hear about, they get to grow. And see, there's no one weed killer that's going to kill all of them.
Right.
You know, forget about True Green and all of that stuff that's gonna make your lawn grow, and you're not going to have these weeds. Mental health needs to be dealt with, and we have to agree to disagree on some things. Now, you may say because I'm a big black man that I shouldn't have that many problems, but you don't know what's going on inside of me. You don't know what I've had to survive in my 71 years of life to get me to this part. And we need to learn how to respect one another, but I need to reach out and help my brother when I see he's suffering.
Right.
When I know that Mars isn't himself, right? When I don't hear him talk like he usually talks, or when EB is just a little off, you know, why not say, EB, you okay, man?
Yeah.
What's really going on? We don't want to spend time with one another because we're used to being teased when I make myself vulnerable.
Yeah.
And to deal with mental health is a vulnerable situation.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So the stigma of vulnerability is what we're dealing with then. The stigma of, as men, like EB was saying earlier, that, you know, at times, especially different parts of Africa back in the day, it was where the men did a lot of things around the house. Now, I'm not saying around the house, but more so took care of the kids, where the women were more so out. I know you even look at the, what was it called? The Woman King, I think it was called. Was it Woman King? With Viola Davis. You know, they were the warriors, you know. But I don't know how many communities were like that back in ancient times. I'm not sure. But
they were the females who did not want to toe the line of what the men expected them to do.
Got you.
And so I'm arranging this wife, and the girl says, I'm not gonna marry him.
Right.
I'm not gonna be part of, well, I can't do nothing with you. You're not gonna help. I'll give you to the king. Let him handle it. And that's the seat of those warriors.
Got you.
See, in every survivor, in every society, there's a group of people that say enough is enough, and you're not gonna abuse me.
Right.
Right. But we got more cowards now that, you know, back in those days,
yeah,
you had to look the man in the eye when you were gonna kill him.
Yeah.
You couldn't be a mile off and put him in the crosshair and aim and shoot him. No, if you want me dead, you come and step to me.
Right.
And see, that's what we've lost.
Yeah, we don't face anything. I think so. The pacification is what I say, right? It's the most unpopular thing I've said in 10 years, and I've been getting in trouble every time I say it. There's a pacification, and it comes from different places, right? I'm black and I'm proud. As good as that sound, it's a pacification in a sense because it says that I don't have to find out who I am. I'm just going to lean on the general statement of who I am. And if you ask most people what does that mean, they can't tell you one social or some concrete thing that tell you what that really means. It's no different than Caucasian Americans saying, this is my country. If you ask him why is he saying that, he has a hard time arguing what that is, and it actually, by the time he finished the argument, he sounds foolish, and that's just who people are, right? So when you come to deal with mental illness and you talk about vulnerability, it means got to maybe I don't know where I'm at. You know, for white Americans, it might be, hey, my ancestors came from different places. I don't know where I am, and it makes it appear weak. So some people don't want to talk about that. Some people don't want to get into that argument. And the same thing with black people. I'm black and I'm proud, but hey, have you trying to finish school? Are you trying to do the best for your family? Are you trying to do? If we start posing things to people and forcing them to answer questions that legitimize who they say they are, they get frustrated. I've never seen so many people argue about the dumbest things online. It's like you missing the whole point where people are arguing their stance. They try to argue something.
Just keyboard warriors with no accountability.
Right. It's no accountability. It's like, okay, yeah, but you just spent the whole comment cussing. It's disrespectful, right? You trying to put somebody in another lane. So for me, that's what this dives down to. I think that Greg said it actually was a perfect statement. We don't know who we are. Everybody in this country, not everybody, a lot of people in this country is very confused about who they are. So when they go home, they try to dominate everything at home. And then when they realize that some of the women not gonna listen, they're like, dude, who you talking to? I mean, that's a frustration. And even the kid's not listening. Now he's frustrated. He can't deal with his anger because he hasn't learned how to process the anger. So it becomes a multitude of issues. And so I've had to deal with that in my whole life, right? I've tried to deal with it. And I had some problems when I was young. So as I grew up, I said, I can't do what I did when I was younger. But some people never learn that. Some people never learn that. Yeah. And it's unfortunate that it's starting to cost a lot of people their lives.
Yeah. Totally understand that. Where do I want to pivot to this? So when I'm looking at, we talked about the vulnerability. Oftentimes, being vulnerable equates to weakness. When you spend your life navigating the world that you may already view as a threat or a target, letting your guard down feels dangerous. This prevents men from seeking therapy or even speaking to friends until they reach the breaking point. Those who, I would say, households that I would say have the finances and grew up, or like generationally grew up where you had the finances and you knew about therapy. There are families that I know, everybody go to therapy. Not that they need any, that they're going through a problem, but it's show them how to cope with that balance. I didn't know anything about mental health therapists until I was grown. And a lot of men go through that. And I look at it with access to information, which is the people that you know. I mean, I don't know too many black families that know a psychiatrist in the family.
That's right.
Until recently, until the last, say, 20 years. But I know other families who had psychiatrists in their family. Uncles, aunties, grandparents. And so you had those conversations. But I didn't know any in the black community. I mean, they always say that in a black community, one of the things our families don't have is doctors and attorneys. We don't have enough of those in our families. You see that increasing. But this association with weakness prevents us from seeking that therapy or getting that help. Now, I don't know the case with these two incidents that we've been talking about in Louisiana and Virginia.
Can I throw one thing in there
Sure.
before you move on?
Sure.
We are desensitized to our feelings. Right?
I agree.
And when they started making these games, these first-person shooter games, I remember a movie called The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
And there was an intergalactic war, and I know it's science fiction, but whatever. They use video games to teach you how to maneuver their spaceships and do their guns and when you reached a certain level, they came and got you, right? That was The Last Starfighter. But I looked at the analogy that we were desensitizing our children to taking a life. when I can look at somebody and point a gun at them and I want to see them kill or bleed, then you make the kids think that, well, I'm just playing a game. I was just playing with them, and there's no reset.
Yeah.
There's no extra life involved. You get one life. You get one chance to go through this journey, right? But we took our foot off the gas with trying to let the kids know life has meaning. Isn't that why we had to play outside?
Yeah.
Isn't that why we had to go to camp? Isn't that why we had pets, right?
Yeah.
So that we had some understanding of the value of life that does not have language. That's African. Like EB said, know who you are.
Yeah.
But we're under all of this trauma.
But it's taught us other. It's taught us that somebody else is other, right? When you talk about that, Greg, I'm thinking back because when I was a kid, it wasn't nothing to see dog fights in the backyard. They made the dogs fight, and if the dog died, then everybody in the neighborhood talk about so. I think the desensitization came on a long time ago, but I think that what happened is that we all saw versions of that. We all saw versions of that, and so I remember my daughter making. I'm not going to go into the big conversation we had, but it was a conversation she came, and we were telling about a story on TikTok, and me and her mother was sad about it, but she actually started laughing. And I had this long, drawn-out talk with her and said, why are you laughing about something so serious? And that's when I realized that even my shelter kids were affected by being desensitized about somebody dying. It was something serious. And so when we see it, we have to attack it. We have to just say, I'm not going to be maybe I'll be less popular in the room, but I'm going to say something to you about what you did. Hey, that's real. Hey, don't just throwing darts at the squirrel in the backyard, trying to kill a squirrel and it's doing what it's supposed to do. When we start just reemphasizing that behavior, it tells them, hey, I got to value life. We got to value life. And so, Greg, you're right. I think a lot of it is that if I kill everybody, then I don't know, maybe they're thinking they're going to heaven. Maybe they think they're going to solve the problems. I don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
If I kill everybody, I'm going to heaven and I'm going to solve the problem. But meanwhile,
I went
all the
to
people that's affected by those deaths.
I went to college in the fall of 1973 and met a young man who was about 5 or 6 years older than me, but he was a Vietnam vet. And he told me that war changes you. That he was not the person that he was when he left. And that he didn't want people to play with him because I know how to kill.
Wow.
I know how to kill.
Yeah,
now,
good.
if you got that in your mind, and we send some of our kids and let them take them off to war, and they change their whole mentality, and then when the war's over, let's throw them back in society without any debrief.
So when you look at the trauma,
That's a desensitization too.
so when you compile that onto generational trauma. Now, when I'm looking at these two stories, one was an influential family, and another one was probably born on a marginalized family. Same result. Someone snapped and went into a rage. It's different where we could always use, like I mentioned it earlier, access and the financial side of getting help. But these are two different spectrums. So you think about Justin Fairfax, he had the means to get help, right? But was it that he didn't want to expose? We're not sure who all knew about his marriage issue, the issues he was having in his marriage. But if you think about it, that a lot of times we are embarrassed or ashamed of our circumstance, and we rather, before we let that dirt get out, we rather dispose of those who can tell the story. When I'm looking at his situation, Fairfax, because he was a week away from his divorce. Was it that you wanted to get rid of her because she can't really tell the dirt that's out there on you? Because I don't know, nothing about this man's background. Wasn't familiar with him too much at all. But when I look at this guy in Louisiana, from what I understand, was dealing more so with child support, the pressure of our finance, the pressure of being there in that sense. But then it also takes us to a bigger responsibility. I'm not saying who should have kids out there just, with different women or not. But you're looking at two different households with women with kids that he had. Where, I don't want to say this the wrong way, because I don't want to sound like because a person have kids out of wedlock that there's a problem, because that's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is that there was pressures from a financial standpoint with this man, from what I understand. And I don't know all the news. This is some hearsay just through the different commentary that I've heard. And he had a lot on his plate. And it's not to give him sympathy, because I'm not trying to do that either. But where do we start being responsible for the pressures that we put on ourselves? Does that make sense? We put a lot of stuff on ourselves.
Yeah, I think we got to go back and man, in order to solve this problem, we're gonna have to be real. And I don't know, and I hate to sound pessimistic, I don't think people are ready for that conversation. I just don't think they are. I just don't think they're ready for that conversation. We need to hold all people responsible for the things that's going to cause problems. I just had this conversation with a relative, and I tell him, hey, you got to do what's right for your kid while they're young, because you don't know what's going to happen. And then I've been telling him this for about 3 years, and all of a sudden he sends me a text that his kid ran away.
Oh, wow.
So I'm supposed to stop everything I'm doing to go help you look for your kid, and you've been neglecting this father-son relationship the whole time.
Yeah.
And I've never stopped saying what I said to him every time I talk to him. I say, you have to be the father you want this child to see.
Yeah.
You can't allow somebody else. Well, my mother does it. My mother takes care of him. She buys him stuff. That's your responsibility. So we have to start having those I'm telling you that if we start, I just believe if we start having those conversations, we can change things to those who listen. But I just don't see a lot of people ready to receive that information. We want to bless them and, put oil on their head and say they're going to be all right by and by if you just believe in Jesus. But you still got to go home and get a job.
Yeah.
You still got to go home and pay your child support. I know it's hard, but you're the one who made that baby. Yes, it's going to be hard. You pray and ask God for some strength and go to school and do some other things. You have to get through that. And so I'm definitely guilty of having kids out of wedlock, but I've never missed a payment.
Yeah. Here's a news flash.
Never missed a payment.
I was a single parent.
Yeah.
I had custody of my daughter.
I remember that.
There is no help. There is no help for men, not for food, not for daycare, not for clothing, not for any of that. No WIC. There's no assistance for men who have custody of their infant children.
Do you think
take that to the bank?
Do you think that from the time you were dealing with it to now that it's changed? Like
no,
for a single
not
dad,
at all.
For a single dad,
that's 1998. My daughter's 30 years old now.
So for a single dad today, you think they're still having those issues getting the assistance and the things they need?
They don't get any. It's not an issue. There's none available for you.
Okay.
Mars, when I met you, I was a single father.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's right. I mean, I won my kids in a very hard custody battle.
Yeah.
And he's right. They dropped them off and they said, okay, since the court gave you custody, there's no assistance because they're no longer in the system.
Got you.
So you have to make it work. But that does not, just because it's hard, don't mean you get an excuse.
No, I
that's the way it is. And so that's another part of it. It ain't supposed to feel good. It's called life.
Yeah.
It's
right. No, I'm with you.
it's the struggle. So as I said, I don't know if we're ready to hear that conversation because when kids and they start having these problems, and I'm the one in my family that my niece and nephew says, I say the same thing. You're not gonna get applause for doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm not gonna applaud you for finishing school. I'm not gonna applaud
Right.
you for finishing high school. I'm not gonna applaud you for taking care of your kid. That's what you're supposed to
That's a
do.
given, right?
But so many of them want that, and so when the pain comes, some of them I've seen, even the ones that's 30 years old, they want somebody to come over and hold their hand and walk them through it. S Greg, as a single parent and me as a single parent, there's times where it was just me there trying to feed them on a little bit of string
Yeah.
money.
Right.
There was nobody telling me a good job. I just had to get it done.
Yeah. So as we look at this from a lack of cultural, the culturally competent, the care that we need. So even when someone reaches out, the medical system hasn't always been a safe space. That's for one. We know that we're not getting, from a black person's perspective, they truly do not get the immediate attention needed in our healthcare system. That's factual. We know that. There's a documented shortage of black male therapists, for one. And without a provider who understands the cultural context, the treatment can feel like another form of being misunderstood. That's one thing I learned. I think we talked about this before about just regular doctors. Just having a doctor, a black doctor, just flat out. So if you think about it from a mental health standpoint, how many black mental health doctors are out there? I'm not sure. That's something that we got to Google. Be like, how many are really out there? What's the ratio?
There's not a lot.
know.
When I was in school for sociology, I remember one of the things the professor said is that even sociologists itself, there was no black sociologists until I think the early 70s.
Right.
Right? They would recognize sociology. So when you start getting into those kind of studies and research stuff like that, that's the problem, right? There's so many issues to deal with. And in order to deal with them, we got to have these open conversations of the people, the legislators, the black legislators. To me, there you go. Start right there. They know the problems, but they'll come in the neighborhood and have conversations about stuff that makes people want to vote right now. But I haven't heard any one of them make a big deal about mental health.
Yeah.
Not one of them. And all of them grew up in our community.
Yeah.
And not one of them from all over the, whether it's national or senatorial candidates or even the local candidates, they do everything that gives them those sound bites, but they're not ready to have those conversations because they know a lot of people don't want to hear it and might get turned off. So they're not going to have a conversation about elderly mistreatment. They're not going to have a conversation about child support being unfair to a lot of men. They're not going to have those conversations about let's get some money to get into mental health. The only time they talk about mental health is when a shooting happened.
Yeah.
One side wants to talk about the side that like guns, and the other side wants to talk about the side that don't like guns.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, they never talk about it.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Well, I looked up some stats for you here. The demographics of black people in the mental health industry. Only 2% are black as psychiatrists. 2%. The recent studies indicate that while the number of residents is growing, the percentage of black residents remain low at roughly 6.25%. Psychologists, these are PhDs, roughly 4% to 5%, 5.3% are black. The American Sociology Association reports that while the number is slowly growing, the workforce remains roughly at 81% white. Clinical social workers, this is where we thrive at. And my own thought process of why this is so high here, which is approximately 20 to 22% are black. Social work has the highest level of black representation among health work, mental health professionals. And the reason why I think that is high is because there are a lot of mental health issues in schools with our young people. That number has risen, I guess, since our kids were younger, in that generation moving forward.
It hamstrings them because it doesn't take as much time to get your social work certification as it does to be able to prescribe
be a doctor.
Psychotropic medication, and we're pushed and pressured in this society to find quick solutions for our circumstances and our problems.
Right.
Now, in what you read, I will tell you that in 1952, when my mother came up from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and met my dad, and they decided they were going to be friends with each other, she went to work at Hawthornden Hospital. Remember that name?
Yeah.
Hawthornden?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The lady that showed her around was white. And when they passed the mental ward, my mom asked, "What's going on down there?" That white lady told her, "Oh, you wouldn't understand anything that's going on down here."
Mm.
Right?
Wow.
My mother got her nursing degree from Cuyahoga Community College, her 2-year degree, and we graduated on the same day
Wow.
in 1973. 9 years later, she got a BSN in psych nursing from Cleveland State University in 1982.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still looking for a degree, okay?
Right.
She was the first Black woman to teach clinicals at Lakewood Hospital for mental health. And she tells me that one of the men in there said, "Who gonna grade my papers? Who gonna, you can't possibly do it." The head nurse came in and say, "Oh, Miss Battle, you here? You teaching here?" Said, "This lady here taught me everything I knew." Walked out to class. See, we have the ability to handle what's going on, but we have to communicate with each other. We have to be friends with, stop competing with your neighbor.
Yeah.
And I think we were headed that way. I'm sorry I interrupted.
No,
but,
you're good.
You know, that history is such that the American Nurses Association didn't accept any Black nurses. So in 82, 83, those who graduated, they got together and the Black doctors got together and they created the Black Nurses Association.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Gotcha,
Yeah. I
gotcha.
think
And
it,
Cleveland Council of Black Nurses is the first chapter of the Black Nurses
Yeah.
Association nationwide.
I think that
See.
the lack of health professionals, Black health professionals, dealing with in two parts. The lack of health professionals is goes back to the conversation we won't have, right? A lot of them can't get into the nursing program because they weren't prepared to get in the nursing program because of the curriculums, because of the stigmas, because of the high dropout rates, because there's no way I'm going to believe that there's only 45% of the people in this country that wanted to be medical or psychiatrists. That's ridiculous. There's no way. So I think that what was true now is true back then. My mother retired from Energizer Battery as a chemist, right? And they had a big push to try to bring in Black professionals, couldn't get them. Because, and the same thing in my field, a city official brought me in to try to help start a program and wanted to know why Black men don't get into certain parts of the trade. I said, because some people put dumb math in it just to make them fail.
Right.
I said in a national conference.
Yeah.
They do it on purpose. So when I taught the class, I took a lot of it out of it so I can get a lot of them through the programs.
Yeah.
So it's a structural problem that needs to be taken care of. And the legislators, the Black legislators who live in our community know that these are the answers, but those answers they don't want to have a conversation about because there are going to be very few people listening. So everything from some education. So we don't want to just deal with just the white people too. Same thing with them. They're going to some of the same school with the same kind of dropout rates.
Mm-hmm.
If the kid don't want to work hard, why should we make them hard to get through it?
We don't teach thinking. We don't teach thinking. No critical thinking. It's all memorize and repeat.
Yeah.
They believe rinse and repeat is the answer, and you have to solve a problem. You have to solve the problem.
Well, I looked this up, but I gave you the stats about Black representation in mental health. I went a little deeper. I mean, this is deep. Just like for psychiatrists, black people make up, like I said earlier, 2% of the psychiatrists that are out there. But check this out. There are estimates. There are estimates that suggest that the number of black male psychiatrists are so low that a patient in many states may never encounter one. That's how low it is.
Right.
Yep.
And then you look at a psychologist, a PhD. Black men account for approximately 3% of the psychology workforce that's in 2022. For comparison, black women make up the majority of the total 4 to 5% black representation in this field. So you're looking at it from an academic standpoint, the pipeline. The gap persists in doctoral training. Black men represent only about 1.6% of psychology and doctoral students. So if you think about it that way, you go in to see a psychologist. And like I said, I always go back. When I think about this, I go back to like my regular primary care doctor. If your doctor you're talking to is giving you everything from a broad perspective, they're not going to narrow down to your specific need. If you go to a black mental health doctor, that I promise you that doctor is going to understand every level of stress that black man is coming in to talk to about. Because I know he went through a heck of a stress. If there's 1.6%, there was some stress for that doctor to even get in his position, let alone getting a degree, but just walking into an office saying you want to be a psychologist. So getting back to what's going on in our society right now, community is number one of being able to speak to one another to where we feel less vulnerable. What Greg said about the competition is so very true. I've seen it where a person with mental health issues, when people know a person has some issues going on, someone else is there to try to take that person down so they can get that person's spot. And it's usually in the workforce. Where you want to, and I'm not saying other demographics don't do it either. They all do it. That's a man thing right there. That competitiveness is a man thing. And I'm not saying women don't do it, but men are known to be competitive in that sense because they're trying to scrape their way to the top. But what about that person who just, I don't want to say just a average life, a life of, not saying on that high professional level, but what about that average everyday person just trying to make it in general?
They're lost.
They're lost for the fact that they don't realize the mental health issue is even there.
Correct.
See,
denial is not a river in Egypt.
Right. So when I look at professional, like corporate America jobs, the conversation of mental health comes up a lot, especially over the last 10 years. So you could be at a job where they're giving you different types of opportunities to speak to someone. I mean, many jobs I've had free mental health counseling.
But they can't help me.
But honestly, speaking for myself, I can say that in the last, say, 10 to 15 years, I probably can get some use out of a mental health counselor. Me personally. And these statistics is why I haven't went, to be honest with you. These statistics right here is why I didn't want to go. Because I'm like, will that psychologist understand me? Me, a 56-year-old black man, divorced, 4 kids, 2 biological, 2 step kids, 8 biological grandbabies, 1 step grandbaby. Will I be recognized as a 56-year-old black man going into corporate America in my late 40s, dealing with the things that happen in corporate America? Will I be understood? And I didn't think I would be. And that's the honest reason why I haven't sought mental health. So If I find a mental health doctor that's black, I would be more willing to go talk. To be honest.
Yeah, but here's the, and I hear you, because that was the struggle that I had, and because I'll just say I was blessed enough to find one. Um, but here's the problem. That problem is not going away right now.
Exactly.
It's not going to go away. So what we've just done is verify why the problem is so compounded, right?
Yeah.
We have to find a way to fix that. Here's a problem I'm having too, and I'm just gonna say it, and I kind of hope it makes somebody mad. Is we have people that just because they got a doctor, a theology degree, think they can be counselors. They don't have the training for it.
Yeah.
And they're playing it. They're playing it. I've heard it's done. Like they go to him counseling once a week. They're preachers. So when that gap, there's such a gap there that everybody is playing therapist, right? Auntie Viola is playing therapist, and so I talk to her every night. No, she's not a therapist. She's not trained to know how you're supposed to move. But because, to your point, Mark, but because she's of my culture, because she's my color, and because she's compassionate, because she knows me, she can give me some advice. But that's advice that's relevant to her and her problems. It's not relevant to me. I think that I'm sitting on a call with some brilliant men, but there's certain things I won't talk to y'all about because I need some people that understand exactly where I'm at. And maybe they're not going to understand exactly, but I want to know that they got some training in that background. Not necessarily going to have all the answers. And so what do we do in that gap? Most people are doing exactly the reasonable thing, which I don't think is unreasonable. What you're saying is, I need to find one that's black. That's reasonable, but it's not probable right now. It's probably
Right.
not going to happen, right?
Well,
It's like, so what do you do? I'm not
so
judging you
here-
because of that. How do you
Here's the
find a problem?
solution. Here's the solution. And I'm grateful for 12-step recovery because it introduced me to self-help groups. And there are some circumstances that are being addressed in a group therapy type situation where I'm involved in community with other black men.
Right.
And there's a black therapist and this Zoom call. See, this is our saving grace right here. This is why we can bring about healing to our community, and they can't put their finger on this or this or this and stop it because you don't know who's going to log in, who's going to come on, where they're at, what they're doing. That anonymity and what I like and what I've been centered in my narrative Nubia space, if you know, you know, is the freedom and the healing that I'm supposed to be getting.
Yeah.
So I can discover who I am,
Right.
why I am, and what I'm supposed to be doing. And that's why I'm giving it to you guys. Now, as usual, it's that time.
Right.
My brother sent me a text, says I'm getting off work early. I'm on my way to Dad's.
Yeah.
That means I got to meet him there. So peace and blessing to both you gentlemen. Keep this conversation pounded, you know, and I'll be listening in on the other side.
Right. Gotcha.
All right, great. See you.
Gotcha. Thanks, Greg. But you know, he made a good point there, EB, about the community. That's where I was going to next. Was that
Yeah,
you know, not having mental health person that I trust in, or it just can be at my age where I'm like, you know, this is, I know what I want. I know, and like I said, it goes back to primary care doctors. I've had bad experiences with doctors who didn't know me. And so getting back to community, that's why where I have thrived the most was having that community around me to steer and guide me. Not diagnose me, but steer and guide me. And I'm not saying my mental health issues is
Fair
bad.
enough.
It was
Yep.
where I knew that being part of a community of men to keep me on track. I seek out older men all the time to build community with, because I feel regardless of that older man's track record or where he's been, he can bring something that I can grab, that I can
That's
absorb.
right.
So,
Yeah,
like
that's
monthly,
right.
I meet with some two older guys I meet with regularly. They're in their 70s, like 20 years older than me. But
Yeah,
I gained so much. But what we realized actually was I've given a lot to them as well. I poured into
sure.
them and didn't even realize I was pouring into them. So that kind of keep all three of us. I mean, the group has been from three of us to as many as 16, and we meet monthly just over breakfast, just to chit chat, see how we doing. But that
Yeah,
kind of
that's fair.
steers you.
Yeah, yeah,
That kind of
yeah.
steers you. And if they saw or heard me say something out of whack, one of those men would pull me to the side and have this
Yeah, I have that as
conversation.
well. Yeah, I
So
definitely have some brothers around me that yeah, I think that what I am saying more than anything else is overall for those serious issues, like right, even if the guy that took his home family had a group,
mm-hmm.
I just think that there was a certain level of, let's just say, unresolved pain and hurt that's going to require somebody that knows how to
Yeah,
sift through that and get to that. And so while they probably would have kept them up a little longer, once we get in our minds that we are like, you've been through some traumatic experiences. You just mentioned that,
yeah,
divorce and stuff. At a point in there, you're like, nobody cares about me. I'm going to do things my way before you have to reel it back in,
right.
right? You just get to a point where you say, like, I'm on this island by myself. I don't mind. I'm going to do it by myself. At some point, you need to have somebody tell you, and which is why I went into therapy myself because of issues that was going on in my life. And finally, it was a girl who called it out on me, one of my closest friends
Yeah,
who called it out. And I was mad at first when she said it, but then when I got in the car and drove away from her, I was like, man, she's right. Something's wrong with me. I got some issues I need to deal with. So, but that it had to get to that level for me to even see it. And that's what I'm talking about. Until we get to that point, A, self and acknowledgement. Two, until we fill that gap, until we got to start getting legislators to realize this is an epidemic and we need to do something about it, we're going to continue to struggle. And I don't really want to just say this is only a black man's situation. So on one side of us, we're killing our families now, appears to see that's what's in the news lately. And then on the other side, on their side of the equator, they're shooting kids up. Well, we're talking about the same problem. We're talking about mental people that just has a mental issues they need to deal with. Not saying they're crazy, just saying that they have some stress they're dealing with and they're taking it out on somebody else. And so I think that we're at an epidemic level. And I think in order for us to start dealing with that, we have to call it like it is. We got to treat it like it's COVID.
yeah,
And if we treat it like it's COVID, then we can start getting, and the churches are a perfect place to get that because they're nonprofits that can go in and try to fight for some of that mental health money and say, hey, we'll host that program or something like that. That's probably perhaps where we start in the synagogues and the mosques and the churches. But the legislators have to push this epidemic
hmm,
thought and how we
yeah.
fix it.
No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And you're absolutely right where you say like sometimes people have to bring it. People that you respect have to bring it to your attention. Hey, you need help or you need to speak to somebody. Um, I think when you look at the case with these two situations, a lot of times you do feel at a wit's end, and I can't understand for the life of me why a person who is unhappy, who doesn't care about living, want to take out everybody else with them.
Yeah.
That's the
But
part
that
that,
tells you what level that is.
yeah,
I'll just say by true confession, I've had that wit end, not that part.
yeah,
But I know because I know who I am and I was raised that way,
yeah,
I was very confident about who I was, even though I was going through something. I was very confident that I didn't want to leave other people with that pain. So
yeah,
it motivated me to do something about it.
yeah,
I didn't want to do anything that was going to create more pain around me because I was in pain.
yeah,
And so that kept me grounded. That part kept me from making those decisions. But what about the people who start off life and being raised, but don't know who they are in the first place?
true,
So telling them, "Oh, you can't do that because you're gonna hurt other people." Well, I'm a hurt.
yeah.
What
Hurt
I
people.
that is such a general statement that is great, it is perfect. But until we solve that
Yeah.
and recognize what you just said and treat it like it's no longer a cliche, it's actually a problem.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to see these stories. I almost hate to turn on the news
Yeah.
because of that. I'm like, okay, they're the police. What happened this time?
Yeah.
Like, another family's gone.
Yeah. I mean, it happened right here in my community this morning. I saw alert. You know, a lot of police were by the high school, and you know, it was alert that went out and said that this is not a high school issue. What it was is that our community police partnered up with the Texas Marshals, and they had 2 suspects, you know, for capital murder. It was right by the high school, you know, and again, I don't know what that case was about. I don't know. I have no details. All I know was a murder case, and they just happened to get caught up in my neighborhood where they got arrested. But that.
So I want to
go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike. No, I was going to say you were talking about access, and so something came up when we were talking, and I was looking at why we were talking, and it said so. There's a 2025 study that said, based on Mental Health America, that said the best states for mental health access are in Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania. Conversely, the states with the lowest access include Alabama, Arizona, Nevada, Arkansas, and South Dakota.
I believe
So
it.
just think about some of the states that I mentioned, right? Like Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts,
The
New
money's
Hampshire,
there.
and Pennsylvania. There it is. Right. That was
Yeah.
the money's there.
What was
right?
the states that do not have the access as much? The lower,
That doesn't have the conversely, states with the lowest is Alabama,
okay, poor,
Arizona,
and that was a shocker right there.
and Nevada. You know why, right?
Well,
Nevada.
there ain't nobody trying to counsel nobody who's spending all their money like that in Vegas.
That's right.
In Vegas,
Arkansas and South Dakota.
Yeah, Arkansas broke. South Dakota, it's just so sparse out there. The population is not as large, so I can see why the numbers are low.
That's right. Idaho,
Okay,
Tennessee, and Wyoming.
Tennessee, you know, they're not financially the best. Wyoming again is like South Dakota. It's not the
Not a lot of
the
people.
population is not there.
Yeah, the psychiatrist is not going to fly out to move to Iowa to have a good practice.
Now, do that same search for Alaska.
Oh, that's very high. I remember reading something about
Can't
that.
be. Can't be. The murder
I
rate.
bet you-
The murder rate is that's, you know, white on white crime is the highest in Alaska. That's the highest crime rate in the country.
No, I'm saying I bet that the mental health rating in Alaska's often ranks poorly in national mental health surveys due to high prevalence of disorders and limited access to health care.
Now look at the crime
Alaska
rate.
has among the lowest access to mental health care in the nation.
Yeah.
48th.
Yeah, I believe it because their murder rate proves it. The murder rate is high in Alaska.
But again, I mean, when Ronald Reagan, everybody's, the Republicans' great guy, was solely responsible for making sure the mental health hospitals around the country closed, and that the states they were no longer send federal money to do that. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
That is a fact, and so we have to deal with whether it was Ronald Reagan that did it or Bill Clinton. It don't matter who did it, but the fact that it happened because of a budget crisis, and the same thing is happening again, where you don't see anybody going, we're going to put a lot of money into mental hospitals, we're going to do this. As long as we're spending money at this rate for things like wars and tax breaks, they don't look at stuff like mental illness because it's something that you can't really see until it has a reaction to something. We're only going to make laws that causes a catastrophe or what we deem as a catastrophe. Again, we have to go back to we got a lot of Black legislators all over the country, even in places like Iowa. Why is it, as much as we know it's a problem in our community, why haven't any of them, I almost say any, why?
You breaking up. You broke up, EB. You broke up, man. You broke up, EB.
Wow. Big Mom.
Can you hear me, man? You broke up.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Greg. I can hear you.
Oh,
But
Okay.
EB just dropped out on me like his whole thing froze up. He froze.
I'm
He
almost
froze.
to my
He
car,
froze up on my
but y'all
screen.
made a
Hmm.
yeah, but y'all made a point, and you listed those things, and what came to my mind was New Hampshire, Vermont, Maine, and Pennsylvania. Those where most of the submarine bases are, and
Okay.
who would have the biggest mental health problems but submariners?
Right. Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Had to
I,
sit up
I
here and
just
make my
thought I'd
screen
throw
big
that in
because
there.
I'm up here by myself. So I'm waiting for EB to pop back in. You back?
yeah, I don't know why
Oh, you
somebody
back
went
in?
out,
There you
man.
go. I see you. Let me get a shot back up.
I'll go back on mute.
No, you can
Yeah,
stay on.
I
You
don't
can
know
stay
what
on if
happened.
you want. It's all good. But what I did was no. You were saying something, EB, when you broke up. What was that?
I was just saying that there's enough. We don't have any excuses anymore. We have a black legislators in every major state in this country, including the islands, right? They should be the main ones making sure that there's always something in the budget in the states and the cities to handle mental health
Yeah.
treatment because they know that's a problem or some kind of incentive. And to me, if they don't do it, they're not being good
Yeah.
community people, period. And so we should be pushing that, just like we push COVID, PPP loans
Yeah.
to get our community back together. Why
Yeah.
aren't we doing that for mental health?
Right. Well, I look at also in this whole thing. We've been talking about mental health, but at the end of the day, there's comes accountability. Um,
Yes, sir.
so many people we fail each other as people. We fail each other regularly, and let me bring you back in here now. We fail each other regularly, and I'm looking at accountability here. And it's true accountability is a relational act. It's really truly you know who you have strong relationships with who you're vulnerable with. That's how I look at relationships. And so when I'm looking at here, it says, it means the community acknowledges role in maintaining an environment where abuse or mental health crisis can stay hidden. And you keep getting these phone calls in here. So active intervention. That's one of the things that we talked about earlier. We talked about it in our pre-show. How we must move from a culture of minding our business to a culture of caring for our collective safety. To be willing enough to say, I don't care if you're mad or not. I don't care if you think out there who know your business. I care enough about you to tell you need help. And me and these band of brothers are going to get you the help you need. And I heard
Yeah.
about that this morning on a show I was listening to. And that happened. That was one of the issues that happened. But I'm looking at here, it says also, if a neighbor, friend, or a colleague is exhibiting signs of extreme distress or volatile behavior, accountability looks like speaking up to a mental health professional or crisis intervention plan. Now, challenging the strong man myth. Particularly those supporting black men must hold themselves accountable for dismantling the idea that seeking help is a weakness. We must create spaces where vulnerability is met with the support rather than a social or professional exile. And that's what we mentioned earlier about that.
Right.
And we got to get past that. You got to be willing to get your feelings hurt.
Yeah, that's hard for all of us, even
It
me
is.
sometimes. But
No.
I think I know you're right. We just you have to do it. And so the answer is what Greg always talks about is community.
Yeah.
Being able to pull people coattails. I definitely got some people that'll do that to me, and even some female friends that'll call me out quicker, right? So, I just think it definitely is a bunch of issues at the same time, and it's bad because there are a bunch of issues at the same time,
Yeah.
right? It's a bunch of them at the same time, and I don't know. I'm hoping that we don't have to something more of this don't have to happen before somebody say, okay, stop. What should we be doing? There's initiative. We need to have an initiative. I don't know what they're gonna call it, right? Just like we had these faith-based initiatives to do stuff, and all of a sudden that
Yeah.
faded out,
Right.
right? But why? Those things, if the church is where people are going, that's what you should be trying to give them help at.
Mm-hmm.
We got to make it more personal.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got to make it one to one. And I picked my building. I live in an apartment complex. I'm an old man. I'm almost crippled. and they give me some deference, but I still talk with them. I talk with them as equals. Everything going all right? How you doing? Good seeing you. We have to start developing those relationships within our community so that we can start looking out and talking, and when people think that you care about them honestly, they will listen to you. Just like you listen to the women that said, you know what, EB, you got to do something about that, brother, right? And we just have to suck it up and grow up. That's all I know.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that. And coming back to EB's comment earlier about access to the mental health facilities, they were being closed up and the federal dollars weren't going there. Boom, here it is right here. It says education, institutional accountability, the access and follow through in the Louisiana shooting, as with many mass tragedies, the question of accountability falls on the ability. I can't speak today, man. The availability and the efficacy of mental health resources. So the facilities aren't there. The information of sending a person to the right place to get the help they need, especially in Louisiana, which is again one of the poorest states in the country. So we must hold local and state. We got to be able to hold these state officials accountable also by saying that these are mental health deserts. They're marginalized communities. If a person in a crisis has nowhere to go but an emergency room, where they often turn away, they go in there. They're not going to give them the help. They become more of a danger in an emergency room than they do getting the proper treatment. And so, so you got to track these outcomes and not just the attendance, but these programs designed to help those with violent tendencies, deep depression. They should be held at these facilities should be held at a high standard to follow up with people who need that help. And that accountability means ensuring that once a person enters the system, they are not lost in a shuffle until a tragedy occurs. That we've seen that where people go to mental health places, they put them through a little system a little bit, they do the little check the box thing, and they put them back out there, and they're not truly ready to go back out. So
that's not their business, because they're not in the business to do that.
Well, that's why we gotta hold them to that standard. Yeah. We hold them. We as voters can hold the government to that standard.
I know
we can do that. And when was the last time you seen anything like this on a ballot or in the conversation in a campaign strategy?
For a long time.
And you mentioned that earlier
because they don't think it's important.
No,
we don't force them
until a tragedy happens.
Yeah, then you should run.
Excuse me?
You run in your neck of the woods. I'll run in my neck of the woods.
I'll vote for EB. Because I ran for city council before, and then I pulled out. I look at myself being more effective. I could be more effective outside of an office position just for the fact of my direct and outspokenness. Being direct and outspoken, you got to know I'm in a situation where we're looking at with this country. Sometimes you got to fall apart before you pick it back up. And I'm saying that. I'm saying that. I'm in like the fourth fastest growing community in America right now. And I mean, this is a small town, but it's the fourth fastest growing in America. And it's almost like, even with the growth, I can see the chaos within, when I say city government, of the turmoil, that I don't really want to be in that turmoil until it gets to a point of it just ready to fall apart. And then I can step in and be like, okay, how can I build a team to help get this thing together?
Yeah.
Because
that should be our next show.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. That's true. And it's
grassroots organizing.
Grassroots
what it
organizing,
looked like.
Right. And see, I feel that I got people that wanted me to run for years. And I'm looking around, I'm looking at the landscape like, man. And then when you mention mental health, I've seen the mental health issues right here in our community, with people. And so, and by the way, we need to put this out here also. I need to be able to put this on because of the show we're doing. I need to put this information out there. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, I got one in the chat too. There's a number at the bottom of the link that'll give people the help they need.
Yeah, I'm going to add this to our.
Definitely not free.
I'm going to add this to our ticker that's scrolling across. Let me find it here. Because it just made me think. I said, man, people are in need. People are, crap. The text is too small. But people are in need, and they need help really bad. And I feel that we do have a platform that can give the people, that can give some information to people. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm like, dang, my font is so small. I got to get a little bigger before I can throw it on the the thing here. I'm like, man, that text is little. But we do need to get people the help they need. And any platform that's out there in America, any platform, our platform, someone else's, if you can help people with the information, we should be trying to get it out there to them. And for some reason, I can't get this font to get bigger.
It's posted on the page once you put it out there. Just put it
here
in
you
the
go, text font size. So that's too big. But yeah, I think that's where we're at in our society right now. That we need to be able to. Let me see if I can put this in here. How it looks. It's in black text. It's too small. It should be in white text there. But I just wanted to get it out real fast, so it wasn't like it was programmed. But I wanted to get the information out there because I think that we definitely need it. And then have it's not what I was trying to do, and it's not looking like I want it to look like. But you can see it down at the bottom. It says your someone is still moving kind of fast there. You need to slow down. But I have the phone numbers there for everybody. And I was just doing this on the fly. And I just wanted to at least give some resources for people who might be needing help right now. You know what I mean? What you got to follow up with that, EB?
So, again, the culture of help, as soon as we can get this chaos out of the leadership, I think that we'll be ready to have conversations. All politics are local. That's something you learn in political science class. All politics are local. I think that we are at a point where every city is going to have to take advantage of the gap and say, my community needs help. The community in Louisiana, and we didn't mention that, but in Coral Springs, Florida, where the vice mayor was killed. Yeah. We need to say, my community needs help. And then petition the state and federal government to lend a hand to open up a center that's going to help with mental health. And even if you help 4 people, even if you help 2 people a day or 1 person a day, it alleviates some of the pressure. Where there's a lot of help for the people that's worse, but not a lot of help for the people that's almost there, right? When they get real sick, there's some place for them to go, but people that's going in and out of court because they beating up somebody or something like that, it should be mandatory. You want to get out of jail, you got to go through this process, and you can't get out of jail until this is over with. At least they might go, okay, well, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe they won't, but at least you need to make it mandatory before you let them out.
No, I agree. I'm going to see if I can do this again, make it go a little slower here. Still got a lot of text there. I want to be able to put these numbers out there for people to get the assistance that they need. And this is the first time I did this round the fly like this. But I'm just trying to help, man, because this really disturbed me, man, this week. I was talking to my wife, and she's like, she's kind of upset about it, but I'm looking at the news all the time, and I was just like, kind of like, wow, this can't be really happening. And how do we address this, as a community? How do we address this, as men? How do we address it? But I got the numbers up there now. I hope that it can be of an assistance to someone. But I'm glad we did this show today. I'm glad we pivoted and, basically came unprepared and had a great show. I want to thank you for coming out. I want to thank Greg. I know he's, you hear his voice out there. He's driving right now, but I want everybody to keep these families in your prayers and keep other people, just those that you don't even know. Just pray that that people that are there that are going through struggles, that's going through mental health issues, that they can be vulnerable enough to seek help, drop
Yep.
the guard down, and even when people are approaching you saying you need help, drop the pride and the shame and go for it. And I'm speaking to myself. I mean, I'm
Yep.
not I don't have a violent situation going on right now, but I think my situations is where you are trying to, at least I'm not even gonna try to diagnose myself. I'm gonna just say this is what it is where you're trying to impress other people, and this is from a career standpoint, more so than just flat out doing the best you can. When you do the best you can, everyone benefits. When you try to outdo others or think, and this is something that I'm fixing myself now, just through my own self help. So what I'm saying is that I've identified my issue from a career standpoint, and I identified where I was investing too much time at versus saying, okay, let me just be the best I can every day and watch those that benefit from me being the best I can be every day versus me highlighting my high points to say, look what I did, and that's some generational trauma right there, over the years, So it's not to a violent standpoint, but I know that the stress the stress of carrying myself like that. I have brought that home, where you're moody,
Yep.
you don't want to talk, you're isolated because you're trying to process in your mind what's going on. And then until recently, the last 2 years, I've become more vulnerable with my wife and saying, and I come out with the statement of, this is what I feel.
Yeah.
This is what I
Yep.
feel, because we are, as men, and this is all men, we kind of tend to hide our emotions. We got this mindset of being tough, like we were saying earlier, that you can tough your way through it. But and also for women, I think women need to, when they hear a man say, this is what I feel, to take it for real. This is what he's feeling, more so
Yep.
than being passive. And that's something me and my wife have had our conversations on. I'm telling you what I feel, because a woman always tell you how they feel most of the time. And we sit back, we like, okay, I hear you. But we want to really address it. But when a man says, this is what I feel, when you do this, this is what I feel. Or even at work, you come home, this is what's happening, and this is what I feel about this. If not, especially if you're in a married situation, if not, that do boil over. And that's where you got to identify, I need to talk to somebody so this doesn't boil over the top, if that makes sense. I'm going to give you the last word, man, before we wrap this up.
Pay attention to everything,
Pay attention.
but don't worry about everything.
Oh, that's good. That's good. What you got, Greg? I know you're still on the line. You got a final word for us? Maybe not.
Love your family.
Love your family.
Love your loved ones.
Okay.
Check on the elders.
There you go.
Make sure they are all right.
I like that. I guess mine would be that's just be transparent and be vulnerable. Even if it hurts your pride, be vulnerable. That's going to benefit everybody around you, especially if you have a family. And with that, y'all, we about to get on up out of here. I want to thank my team here. You guys have been awesome as always. You come in with great stuff. I want to try to get these clips chopped up. I think this was a good show for us. We need to get some clips out there online. I'm going to try to get that done this week. And with that, we'll catch y'all next week. Peace.
Peace.